Hey, happy
Hello.
Monday.
Hello.
Happy work deadlines and stuff, or whatever you got going on in your life if you're
Corporate stupid
not a corporate prostitute like we are.
corporate prostitutes.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well,
some people have like emotionally fulfilling jobs.
that's got to be nice, or maybe it's not. I don't know.
I mean, I've had emotionally fulfilling jobs before, and the problem with those is like they make you feel like if you are doing it, if you want more money and you think you deserve more money, that you shouldn't feel that way.
Because it's
You
greed.
should
It's like
because you
you should
should
be
be
doing
doing
it.
it for emotional fulfillment.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have a job for a corporate overlord like we do, you can feel very clear that you are doing it for the money.
Yeah. Well, the other thing though is as someone who's completely like emotionally detached from my job,
Yes.
and like I don't
Yes.
always give it my all because like I just don't feel fulfilled by doing so.
Right.
That also makes me reluctant to ask for more money. I'm more in that comfort zone of like
Yeah.
the ratio of pay to work involved makes me not want to rock the boat like at all.
I get that. I have an overarching sense of quality, I guess. I don't like to do bad work, but
Oh,
I
me
don't like
either.
to
But
do more work. I like
yes,
to do the
exactly.
minimum and do the minimum well.
Hmm.
I don't like to do crappy work. Also, like I care about my reputation with regulatory bodies because like
Yeah, I
no,
get that.
they're the ones who see me in the end. But I don't really care about these companies. So
And like Jenna said, there are so many people who make comments about teachers saying they should be doing it for the kids as if teachers don't
yeah.
have to make a
And
living.
I know. Yeah. And I used to be a teacher and I know how that feels. I know how that feels. Like that you should just take pay cuts and everyone has to tighten their belts because it's for the students. Like,
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah,
I'm
like
the
Zen said,
one who
at
has
this
to pay
pay, at this
bills.
pay, I feel validated in my apathy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
So, but anyways, no more talk of corporate jobs. There's talk of
Yeah,
plants.
plant time.
Plant
So
time.
I have a plug finally for my stock
Huzzah!
tank,
Is it
which,
watertight?
well, I didn't fill it all the way yet. I hand tightened it, so my guess is probably not. But this, once I get it all filled up, it'll give me an idea of like how tight it actually is. But it's crazy because I did spend some time trying to find the right thing online, like based on measurements and whatever. And at no point until finally I just gave up that ever crossed my mind to just contact the company, because you think it's a company that sells stock tanks. Like, what is their online presence? What is their customer service gonna really be? Surprisingly, really good.
Wow.
They replied within 12 hours asking for my address to send the plug. They sent the
Wow.
plug like the within 24 to 48 hours. UPS, I got it within the week. They and the customer service rep was like, email me to confirm it fits and then I'll close the ticket. I'm like, well, there we go. And it fits. It's the right thing.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? It's good to find a company with good customer service. That's nice. That's
Mm.
good. 'Cause-
So I'm thinking for this pond, it's a pretty big pond. I think it warrants maybe a bog filter. And I was kind of looking up like what you need to build one. It doesn't seem that hard at all.
yeah, I don't
Essentially,
think they are hard. I mean, my friend who built mine, it was a day or so with the tools that would fit in the back of his tiny car and me as an assistant. I'm a terrible assistant. I think you could build a nicer one than I have. You have better skills.
I
But
mean, it's a container. It's some sort of piping that goes to the bottom of the container to send water up and out of the container, right? And then
yep, all
whatever
it is,
substrate.
yeah, it's just and then it's a box filled with pea gravel, and the box is lined with pond liner.
So do you think pea gravel is all I need? I've seen people use
Yes. That's what I use is pea gravel.
Okay.
I mean, you could use other things. The thing about Lika, if you use that, it's more expensive, but it is lighter if you're worried about weight. So
No, in fact, I was thinking that I would have the bog filter actually in the pond, like just kind of sitting on something, elevating it right
yeah,
on the edge of it.
yeah,
So I figure that'll work.
yeah. Then you can use pea gravel if you think the weight it will be supported. I mean, mine is a bog box and it's supported by wood,
Okay.
built onto it, and I don't know, it's held up for like I don't know 7 years now. Wow. It was constructed real rickety. But it's
Well,
still holding up. So,
so the other thing is like I have a pump that I don't know if it's too powerful or if it's going to be powerful enough. I have no frame of
yeah.
reference for it. It's a 3,000 gallon per hour pump for this
I'm
620.
probably a little more powerful than that. You want something more powerful than for your current pond, probably.
The current
Um,
pond is like a 800 gallon per hour, but it's
yeah, I
like
mean, I
even
don't know if you have
reduced.
3,000. I would just test it and see. It might be okay. More
Well, if it's not
powerful,
like if
you
it's not
know.
powerful enough, I can use it to pump my RO water because right now that
Oh,
one has
that's
a
true.
very
Yeah.
very weak pump, so it takes
Oh,
forever to fill
yeah.
a
So
tank.
you'll use it. I mean, I would just test it and see where you're at, see what you think. I can't remember what I'm using for my pond, and I've replaced that pump once or twice because it's died. I mean, pond pumps, unless they're like big enough for a major pond, are not that
Yeah.
expensive. So,
So Jody P has gifted 20 memberships, and
Jody P.
I saw that Singananthus, if I'm even saying that right, Singananthus Society was asking how do I purchase a membership via mobile, and it was gifted. So
Oh, goodness. Well,
nice. Thank you, Jody. That's
maybe next
awesome.
month you can buy your own. So on a mobile, it can be tricky to figure out how to buy memberships. Sometimes I
Apparently,
just
it's
go to
very
my
hard on iPhone.
Yeah, I usually just go to my laptop and do it because on iPhones it's kind of impossible.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and that's because the iPhone they have their own walled garden thing. You can sometimes find it if you go to the creator's homepage. You can find the link there to join.
Yeah,
But it
on
is
Android,
easier.
there's a
It's
join button.
easier. Yeah, it's easier just to go to your laptop. And in fact, if I want to gift memberships, I have to like go to my laptop and do it. There's no way to do it from an iPhone. There's no way.
Hmm.
So,
I
yeah.
used to be able to from Android gift memberships and do super chats, but now all of my payment methods say unavailable.
Oh,
But if I
yeah.
go and use those same payment methods on my laptop, they are suddenly
Yeah.
available. Go figure.
Who
I
knows
don't know.
why? I don't know if because like YouTube no longer has negotiation for memberships or something with the phone. I mean, like with iPhone especially because they take a cut of everything. I mean, you know, the iTunes store does that.
Yeah.
I mean, the benefit is like everything that's offered through the App Store has more security, so you're less likely to download apps that are bad. So, but anyways, yeah, easier to do from a laptop. And but thank you, Jody.
So what do you know about Singonanthus? I feel like that's one of those like frilly plants, like maybe
Yeah.
Areocolon adjacent.
I mean, I haven't grown them because I was under the impression that they all required low pH water. Now, I could be wrong about that, but they're all also kind of stemmy. I believe I tried one. I think someone sent me one once and it did not do well. It melted, which
I
is
see it in
usually
a
what,
lot of scapes, like
yeah.
a lot of Dutch scapes have it.
Yeah, they're cool plants. They're just not gonna like probably do well in my water, but I also don't know very much about them. So maybe Singanantha Society could tell us a little more because
Hmm.
I am not very knowledgeable.
Oh, they're doing a crossbreeding project with them, so
Cool.
sounds like they're
Awesome.
pretty. Yeah, there we go. Areocolon and Singonanthus are in
Yeah.
the same family,
Yeah, and a lot of
and
Ariel Collins. I mean, there were a couple that we can grow in harder water, but like the feather dusters, the Malaya Tour, I've grown those and they
the
do
Vietnam
okay.
too.
Which one? Yeah, the
The
Vietnam. But a lot of them don't do well.
I'll have to send you another Vietnam since the travel disaster. You lost that one in the travel disaster.
Didn't. That was a disaster. I got home and I'm like, fuck all these plants. I'm too tired. They're mushy. I'm just fuck all these plants.
Crushed by exhaustion. So Eric has also gifted 10 memberships.
Eric Y Rock.
Then Toonie Loon following up with gifting 5 memberships.
Oh my goodness. People are going crazy today.
35 members.
What are you going to do with all those members?
Hope that not all 35 request plants from me because the post office is pissing me off.
I know. I haven't divided them yet. But I always send out water lilies to everyone every year. And I'm hoping they don't get super delayed.
You saw on Fishcord, I posted, this is what happens when you don't divide your water lily. The most root bound pot.
Yeah, and I don't know if you divided it yet, but back when I kept one visa and I don't have it anymore, it could get divided after 1 year into 15 plants. Because you can really divide it up.
So Zen said she just shipped hill streams to Scotty today, but I think I did experiment with priority mail, and those seem to be coming through a lot better than using the ground. But if I have to switch to priority or UPS, my shipping costs double. So I was trying not to do that. But also, if half of the fucking packages don't make it before the plants die, then I have to do something.
No, it's because you're spending so much money on shipping.
I mean, there's $5 a piece on shipping, but it would be $9-10 depending on where it's going if I do priority. Mom Dog 72, that's a new name. Just wanted to say hi, welcome,
and we love dogs.
I love dogs.
We love dogs, and we love our moms. So there you go.
Let's see. So I saw a question that I starred before. Semi-emergency fish tank move around the same rain that soaked the last day. Maybe that's not a question, but that sucks.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Did Miami have some really bad weather? I didn't know about that.
We actually have been having thunderstorms the last few days too.
We. Yeah, because we've been getting the same ones you have. They're just these long lines that have been moving toward the east. And and we're getting a ton more. So over the weekend, we got rain I don't know. I think a half an inch of rain, but on Wednesday we're getting 1.5 inches of rain. We're getting a really, really big storm with potentials severe weather, high winds, chance of tornadoes. So true in Michigan also. So Eric Y Rock might be in peril also. So
I tried to do as much pond work as I could, but on the weekends I am up until 4 or 5 a.m. and then I get up in the early afternoon, and then I'm kind of chilling for a while. Then I get the motivation to be a person around the evening. But then we did family movie night last night and dinner. So I was able to take that spike rush, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I will never plant that in a cloth container again because
because I always remove it every year.
Oh my God, those roots went through the cloth. I was sitting in a chair. I had both feet clamped to the cloth container, just ripping it out. I was exhausted.
And you don't need to be gentle with it. Those sedges are real sturdy. You can just cut them with a knife, hack them up.
I have so many portions of that. I'm just gonna plant one, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. But the cloth things they're not the best option. I need to just get some plastic pond baskets and fill them with pea gravel like I was gonna do before.
That works too. I mean, I have the pond baskets, but I change them out every year, so that probably helps.
So
if
Jody,
I go 2 years. And they die back because of the frost. So
right.
I mean, they're perennial. They come back, but still, they take a big hit in the winter. So
It is Nathan's birthday. Happy birthday, Nathan.
happy birthday, Nathan. How old are you now, Nathan? Let us know.
Yeah, sure.
So if you had the option to get a 10-foot stock tank or a 125-gallon aquarium, which would you take? I would take the 10-foot stock tank for you because you don't have any ponds yet and you'll have a lot of fun with it. Like,
I was
really
asking for me. I was
life.
answering for me, like if yeah, for her.
Yeah, for you, I wouldn't do it because one, you don't have any room for another one. And like for me, I don't have room for a 10-foot one either. I don't actually want either of those things at the moment. It's just not going to happen. But, I think you would have a lot of fun with it, the 10-foot stock tank. And
you could do you could do some kind of outdoor breeding project with it.
Well, I mean, you can have a lot of fun growing things, which is, in my opinion, the highest purpose of these ponds. Like,
yeah. So that the 8-foot stock tank that I have, it's underneath that giant oak.
yeah,
And unless I take extreme measures to keep debris out of it, it's going to be a blackwater tank because
it's going to drive you nuts is the problem. Because like they get so like full of muck when they have leaves drop in them. Like you might consider putting a net over it. A net.
A net.
I mean, you don't want a net to like straddle your pond like that. That would be very uncomfortable for her.
She can block all that debris.
She's not that large of a person, so I don't think she could block that much.
What if I just put a crap ton of Purigen in the bog filter? Then I can at least see what's going on.
I don't think you can afford that much Purigen. It's require a lot.
So Lisa the Wolf would like to know, how do you split water lilies?
So it's not. They can take some rough handling. So what I do is I upend the pot and then I blast it with a hose to try to get like as much of the soil off as possible. And then I pull out the rhizome and you'll see like it kind of grows in a spiral pattern of eyes. And I use like a sharp kitchen knife. I don't use anything fancy. I don't use like a sterile razor blade or anything. I just use a kitchen knife and I just cut it into slices and I make sure that everyone has a little growth eye. And that's all there is to it. And all people need is a little slice of tuber. And some of those, like if I have like a long rhizome like that, I get like 10 or 15 portions out of them to give to people. So, when people sell those, you can sell them at club auctions if you want. Or, I just give them away. You could compost them. But most water lilies, if they're in like a regular pot, need to be divided every year.
Otherwise, you can see what size and shape pot I used for the lily.
God, that's so root bound. And somewhere in there is the rhizome. So, and they even are root bound. I mean, like one visa.
This is the bottom of it. I basically took the pot and I turned it over just to see the other side of it. And so this was like all the lily rhizomes.
Yeah, and then you can get probably like, I don't know, maybe even 20 little plantlets out of that. Like, and the thing is, this is like for one visa, technically, because I used to have it and I got sick of it. I probably should have been dividing it more than once a year, even because
I think so too.
So quick, but I don't have the wherewithal to divide water lilies more than once a year. It's kind of a project. It's really heavy. It's an undertaking. I don't want to do it more than once a year. There are a few varieties I don't need to divide every year because they don't get root bound fast enough. But most of the hardy ones, every year. Now, for the tropical ones, they don't have a horizontal rhizome. They get a big vertical rhizome. And I don't know about dividing those. Never, because for me, they're not hardy in my climate. So I treat them as annuals and they're dead at the end. So, yeah.
This is one of the cloth pots that that I use for the canna.
Yeah, those cannas, they I end up dividing my cannas every year because they're not hardy in my climate. I've got a chunk of them down in the basement that I put into storage. Hopefully they'll make it through. I don't know. I haven't taken them out yet because next week is going to get down to 23 degrees. Come on. Like, so miserable here.
I'm glad I don't live there.
You
And
know,
yeah,
but
Foxy
our
said we had
summers
8
are
inches of snow, then an ice storm, then 2 more inches of snow.
Jesus. Our summers are really, really pleasant. We do get some high heat, like above the 90s, but not as much as you. Our humidity isn't as high. By and large, our summers are pretty pleasant. Like, it's not unpleasant to be outside or to just, enjoy a meal outside. It's not bad. So there's advantages. But if you live in Iowa, the weather is shitty like 95% of the year. It's the worst climate on earth.
So, Coro was asking if I want any Val. I've been kind of paring down the Val that I have. It's just getting a little bit out of control.
I am about to get rid of my Cyperus helferi. For some reason, it never gets invasive in this tank. But once I put the Chihiro's lights on this, oh my God, it gets everywhere. It's so invasive.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of getting rid of it because I'm sick of it.
Shaving a haircut 2 bits in my future. I mean, that's been in my future for a long time. Like, I'm far beyond that.
I mean, I'm getting my hair done on, I think, Wednesday. So I get my hair done like every 6 weeks now.
Can an umbrella palm be planted under the water as long as the tops are out? They have it just sitting in an inch of water at Garden Center.
Yeah. So I think what you mean by umbrella palm is like Cyperus or papyrus.
Is that not like the parlor palm? Is that a different thing?
Yeah, very different. I think they mean Cyperus, and they sell them in garden centers. The varieties that I see in garden centers, so King Tut is the biggest, and it is enormous, just huge. Probably not good for smaller ponds. And then Prince Tut still gets pretty big, but more manageable. Then there's Baby Tut, which is very cute in a small pond. Very nice. For you, it's perennial. For me, we treat it as an annual. It's very cheap. And then now there's Queen Tut, which is about the size of Prince Tut, but it has a different growth habit, and it's very pretty. I grew that last year. I really liked it. But yeah, it can have the crown about an inch or so underwater and grow out, and it's a great pond plant.
Oh, cool.
And if you grow it in a pot, or in the ground, it needs a lot of water compared to maybe other things you plant. So it can have either wet feet or not wet feet. I mean, it's papyrus, like the Egyptian papyrus. It's native to Egypt, and it's, a boggy plant. So yeah, and you can find it at any garden center, like not necessarily in the pond section or anything. You can find it just with the annuals. And for you, Stephen, I think it might be perennial.
Nice.
Maybe, or close to it, but it's a fun plant.
Yeah, and for outdoors, easy is always good too.
Very easy, and it'll be okay in the shade. It'll grow slower in the shade, but that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, so that's one you could try in your pond. It's pretty.
So Wayne Talbot says my Ponageton bolivianus is still dormant after its last leaf melted back 4 weeks ago. After I last asked you guys both the question about what to do with the bulb.
I mean, if you want it to come back, I would just leave it where it is, but you have to make sure that it doesn't get completely blocked by other plants, that it's still getting some light accessing it, which is tricky to do because I've found ones before that I've forgotten about. And I'm like, whoa, I still have that? Yeah.
I've found like little mini bulbs in tanks, and I'm like, I don't even know what you
but
are.
I had one like this huge bulb of it that had died back. I'm like, I forgot that was there. So, and it
you kind of have to like sequester it and make it a little zone of like no shading, and
it's not gonna happen. I would say as long as the bulb is not mushy, it's not dead. So, but if you want it to come back, it does need some light, and it prefers cooler temperatures. It tends to die back in the heat of summer, Some of them also die back once they flowered a lot too. A lot of plants die back after they flower. It's just kind of what they do. So, it might come back,
Is
but
that
no
like when the
guarantees.
flower is a stress response?
Sometimes, yeah, or it's just kind of a seasonal thing,
Hmm.
depending on the plant. So,
What types of aquarium freshwater snails, asked Mandarin Gobi, it can go into a blackwater aquarium, and does tannins and botanicals hurt the snails? I don't think they do at all. I think it's the
yeah,
acidity of the water can hurt the snails.
yeah. We have a snail expert. I think Annette's here today. I don't know. Annette knows more about snails than we do. I would just say that the lower pH your water is, the lower KH your water is, the lower GH your water is, the
Yeah,
worse your
and when you
snails are gonna do.
because like if you think of a true blackwater biotope, it's very ion poor. Like
Yeah.
it's is very hardly any minerals at all in the water. So
Yep.
that's not generally a great environment for snails.
Yeah, snails need calcium and magnesium to build shell. That's GH. And they need to do it in an environment that's low pH, or I mean, higher pH and KH, because that shifts the equilibrium into not dissolving it. So, like,
Yeah,
dropping out.
but like on the other side, there are people who will take botanicals, leaves and whatever, and they'll put it in their regular hard tap water aquarium, and it will tint the water. There will be tannins in the
Yeah.
water, but that's not inherently bad for snails because
And
they
it's
have what
also
they
doesn't
need.
inherently change your pH really that much,
No,
or
it
your
doesn't.
KH, because
No,
you've tested that. It doesn't change it much. I mean, where
no.
you're going to get into trouble with snails is if you have really low KH water and like you inject CO2, because that's going to really lower your pH and KH, or I mean
Yeah.
your pH. And if you already have like super low KH and GH water out of the tap, you can always add more GH. You can add more KH too if you want to, like if you want prize winning snails or you're breeding snails.
Although I
But
will say
snails and blackwater are not the most like compatible of setups.
when I set up that boost bowl and started injecting CO2 in it, the pH goes down to about 5.5 because I have
Yeah.
0 KH in there. And I put pond snails in there to clean things up, and they are doing great.
That's
They
great. I mean, Mike says that he has he really doesn't get snails because he has RO water, so KH of 0. He had some GH, but he doesn't really get any snails. I mean, I will say that you're never going to get good looking snails if you inject CO2. I mean, I have snails that have lived very long lives. I have nereids that are probably at least 3 years old, and they're huge. Like, I'm sorry, not nereids, Clethon snails. They're like this big, but they're etched up, and all my snails are etched up. They don't have pretty shells. Like, I would never win like a prize at the clash for my snail. So
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing about the pond snails. They were born in at my house because
yeah,
like they reproduce like that pretty easily. They don't have scuffed up shells, and I think that's kind of one of the things that protects them from shell erosion is that like there's that
interesting. Yeah,
outer layer that
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at mine right now. I have a lot of snails, and I'm trying to see if any of them. Some of them are a little better than others. Like I'm looking at some pretty big ram's horns, but I would say even those are pretty scuffed up.
a ram's
They're
horn
trying.
ends up turning white in my CO2 injected tanks
Yeah,
usually.
yeah, they do. Um, I don't really get the other kind of snails, like the football shaped pond snails. I don't get those. They don't proliferate. Maybe the CO2 kills them off. I get them outside in my actual pond.
I had to buy ram's horn snails to actually get a good population years ago.
I did. I bought pink ram's horn snails years ago too, and I'm just living off the largesse of them. But I mean, I guess I'm looking now. I have a couple of pond snails in this tank. A couple, but majority I have ram's horns, and none of them look great. None of them look great, but they proliferate, and I like them. They're doing a job. They clean up detritus, leftover food. And Jake
Yeah,
likes them more than my expensive rainbows. I mean, he thinks
very
like
protective of them.
he is very protective of them, and he would say that, you know, the quality of a good tank is a healthy snail population. So there you go.
Well, I have all of the snails. I've even had the mini ram's horns. I have
Yeah.
MTS, pond bladder, full ram's horn. I've got clethons, and I got the neorites, and I don't have
I
mystery snails anymore, but I've had them at some
We've
point.
had those. Yeah. I had so many Malaysian trumpet snails when I lived in Iowa that I had to nuke that tank. I couldn't stand it anymore. Like the
Oh my
just
God, in Iowa, I bet those things were like
oh god.
Terminator
Oh, because the water is
MTS, like
so hard. Even if you inject CO2, it
impenetrable.
doesn't matter. The water's so hard that like when I got rid of that tank, it tore it down and threw out the substrate. The substrate was like 80% shell for Malaysian trumpet snails, like the dead ones. And like every day, like I could see the substrate just writhing with them. It was absolutely disgusting. Like I don't mind like a few Malaysian trumpet snails, but this was an infestation of them. It was just disgusting.
Yeah, they can
So
get pretty
yeah, Iowa
out of
water
hand.
is like perfect snail water because it's so high in minerals and the KH is so high, the pH is so high. You can grow snails and African cichlids in Iowa. That is what it's for. Anything else is really hard.
So, Toonie Loon, like to know what are your favorite low-tech plants when it comes to heavily planted community tanks? I'm currently redoing my tanks and have a bad case of the dumb when it comes to leafy green
Oh,
things. Well, what is your KH?
yeah.
I like to do mostly low light when I do low tech, but I do have some that are higher light.
Yeah.
But crypts are
Yeah,
the
I was gonna say
staple.
crypts are my favorite, and like the only crypts that are hard are like the pink flamingos and like some of the very, very expensive crypts, but most crypts are dead easy. Doesn't matter if you inject CO2 or not. They will grow faster if you inject CO2. They will grow faster if you have low KH water. But crypts will always do well and they look really, really nice. So
So
I would
also
lean into crypts.
depends on your KH too. So I have 7 degrees KH water, and I'm actually able to grow some things that are sometimes seen as like need CO2. Like, so this Blixa, it's not ever going to be just like, holy crap, awesome looking, but it is surviving and growing and not melting back. And it's been several months in there. So
Mhm.
it remains to be seen long term. This Echinodorus aflame grew from a tissue culture to what it is now. It took about 6 months, but it's slow and it's doing fine in there.
I
Of
wouldn't
course,
recommend either of those plants though for an
no,
easy low tech tank though, because in my experience, both those are fussy plants.
yeah, I'm
Like
just starting
they
with the
don't grow
hardest
well without
ones.
CO2. I don't. In most cases, I don't think. Like in my case, uh, Blixit dies back the moment that it loses CO2. Now, maybe if it's
Interesting.
always has no CO2, it's not an issue. But for me, like it's the bellwether plant. So
Yeah,
I would not recommend either of those. But
no,
crypts
but it's
are
there
always
sitting
gonna
there
look Crypts are always gonna look good.
doing its thing.
Yeah.
But those are just the two difficult ones. It's like this is kind of like this is how far you can sort of push it in medium KH water. But yeah, so going to the easy stuff. There's the crypts. This Samolus, whatever green, I forgot
Yeah,
the name of it, but it's a
you don't
Samolus.
yeah, one of the Samolus parvifloras.
Yeah, but it's not the red variety. It's
Well,
very
I only have the
slow,
red.
but it does great.
It needs good
Just
light
in
because I have
stages.
Samolus parviflora red and it keeps getting shaded out where it is and it doesn't
Yeah, it
have a
turns
bit of
green.
color.
Yeah, but this
But
one's not.
it's
This
good.
one in here is not meant to be red. It with highlight, it's still
Oh,
green.
okay.
It's just
Yeah, I've
yeah.
never kept the green one, just the red. And it's a nice plant.
So
But
you can do these crypts. You can do this.
good.
Like this is Pogostem and Samsoni. It does need some light. It's pretty easy weed. Of course, there's like this is a Ludwigia. I think it's like an Arcuata cross with the Repens or something like that.
Yep.
That does
Those are
fine.
good. Those are good. Especially if you want like a little color.
Yeah.
Your
So
repent will get you
it's
that.
kind of, and then you can do epiphyte. So this is like my highest light um
No
non
CO2
CO2.
tank.
Now here next picture is my lowest light non-injected tank. And this is just Crips, Boost, Anubius, and the Bulbitis. And
Yeah.
very, very low par in this tank.
Yeah.
Everything is growing fantastically, but just very, 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 very slow. But you kind of want that in low tech, because if you try to push it too much is whenever you get algae and whenever you get deficiency symptoms and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I would definitely recommend Anubius. I really like it. I would not
Mhm.
recommend Java Fern. Everybody always says it's a great low tech
Yeah, you
plant.
notice there is no Java fern in this tank.
Yeah, because
It's,
Java Ferns always look like crap without CO2.
they are technically alive in the most technical,
Yeah.
loosest sense of the phrase.
But they
Alive.
don't
Like,
grow. And everyone's like, oh, but it's healthy. It's
uh,
making babies. In my experience, they make tons of babies when they're not healthy.
yeah.
Like, and they just never look good. They always look like trash. And they're big algae magnets too. Like, especially if you're prone to BBA, they really get just like riddled with BBA. And then the moment you put CO2 on them, you're like, oh, that's how that's supposed to look. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's much better. So I would steer clear of Java ferns, even though everyone's going to tell you that's an easy low tech plant. I don't think it
Yeah.
is. But Anubias is a good choice. It just grows super slow. But crypts, man, crypts are the best. Crypts are best if you're high tech, if you're low
You
tech,
can do the whole tank in Crips and
medium.
still have a nice variety.
Sure. I mean, the only thing with crypts is like they can get a little invasive because they spread by runners, but they're not as invasive as like vals. Vals are super invasive.
But you can take
So,
with a low tech tank, most people are running their low tech tank lights too high, because you
yeah,
can turn
probably.
down the light on Crips way more than you think, as long as they've got good, especially good nutritious
They
substrate.
don't need much. They don't
Yeah.
need much. And I can tell you they don't need much because, back when I first started growing plants, lights sucked. They were so bad. The par was so low. Even if you spent a lot of money on a fixture, you could spend like $200 on a fixture for your 29-gallon tank, and it would still be like pretty low par. Like,
Yeah.
um, so, but it was enough to grow crypts. It was enough to grow crypts, but maybe not other things. So, they don't need much. They're a good choice. And they're easy to find at auctions. If you go to auctions, they're easy to buy tissue cultures of, and that's a good value. One thing to keep in mind is after you plant them, they oftentimes die back, but do not be concerned. They will come back. They'll
Mhm.
come back. So,
Yeah, I see people post on the co-op forum sometimes, like, I just moved a crypt and it's not doing well. And then there'll be like a reply of like, I noticed the leaf tips are doing this and they're
no,
cupping, and now this must be calcium, and I'm just
no, no,
I just
no. Sometimes crypts also like I've like done a major rescape before. Like I didn't even touch the patch of crypts, but I don't know. I just like disturbed enough, and the crypts just went and just all melted back. But they came back. They came
yeah.
back. So, and that just happens. They can be a little dramatic, but they do come back. All right. So your dwarf water lilies. Okay, so those are a different. They're nymphaeas, but they're a different species of nymphaea. I'm talking about the hardy water lilies that you grow outside. They're winter hardy. So the ones in your tank, so what they'll do is they propagate by like runners all over your tanks. And they also have like these little balls. They're little, I guess, I wouldn't.
Tubers, are
Maybe
they
they're tubers, maybe they're
bulbs?
corms, I guess, or
Mhm.
corms you could call them probably.
Mhm.
Because a bulb is like an onion, so if you cut it up, you see the layers. A corm would be a
Gotcha.
ball that's like a solid massive tissue. So probably corms would be the best way to describe
We
them.
use a lot of incorrect terminology in aquarium plants, don't we?
We do, but you know what?
Like
That's true all over the place. Like everybody
bulbs
calls
and
everything.
lotuses and epiphytes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that they are technically corms would be the best way to call them. If it's stem tissue that's growing horizontally under the ground, that's a rhizome, or above too. It's a rhizome, like thickened tissue. So, But anyways, I digress. They'll send little runners all over your tank, and they'll have these little corms all over your tank, and eventually they'll take over your whole tank. And you can just pull those. You could sell them, you could give them away, you could set them on fire, whatever you want to do. But you don't need to divide anything. But if you don't do something, like, they will take over your tank, because that's how they spread. That's how they propagate. So what I would do back when I had that plant is I would just rip out handfuls of it and throw it out. And eventually I got rid of it. And it took a long time to get rid of it, because I would find little runners all over with like one sprouting up. I'm like, oh, fuck, I missed one. So.
Let's see. Hopefully I'm not skipping questions, because we're a little behind. So I'm like trying to rush through.
We're doing our best.
We're like 20 minutes.
We don't do that good.
I saw that Chelsea wants Cypress Helferi, and I used to have that plant.
I had too much of that plant.
Yeah, I didn't.
It was so well behaved for like 2 years, and now all of a sudden,
it's exactly why I got rid of it.
Yeah,
it turned into a Val.
I can't deal with it. I don't want Vals. I don't want that in my life.
I had it in the 40. I also didn't. I thought it would stay short in the 40, but it got too long. It started shading stuff out, and
I want it long right here.
In the 90,
but I don't think it's getting enough par right here to really like get out of control. Whereas like when I put the Chihiros on here, it just started going out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I got it from Atlantic Aquariums, and it was kind of hard to get established. So. It used to grow slow.
Moto Guppy, that seems like a familiar name, but newish. So
welcome.
Help with Hygrophila pennitifida, or pennitifida, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I had it in a 20 with Hyger Light, 125 with 2 Fluval 3.0 tissue cultures. For some reason, it just won't grow.
So I would say that 2 Fluval 3.0s over 125 might not be enough light to get you anywhere. I used to have 3 of them over my 90, which I believe is the same depth. And it really just wasn't much. That plant does need a good amount of light. Now in the 20...
It could be CO2 limited though, if we're talking like if it's
if you don't inject CO2, that plant really does better with CO2.
You can make it work without CO2, but it is very slow. Also, I have never been able to transition tissue culture of that plant in a non-CO2 injected tank. I like 100% failure rate, but I can take established from a tissue culture from a CO2 injected tank and put it into a non-CO2 injected tank, and it will grow very slowly. It will get taller and leggier and not look as good. Ultimately, I've done that plant twice, and both times I get tired of it because it starts to kind of grow out of hand and it goes where it wants to go. It doesn't look good unless you bunch it together, and so I just kind of gave up on it. But yeah,
like aquascaper type plants, I think it's one of the harder ones to grow and make look good. I think if you want it to look good, it needs CO2, it needs decent light. I mean, over a 20, all light is enough light because it's a shallow tank.
Right.
You only get into trouble when, over 125s are pretty deep tanks. So that's where like 2 Fluval 3.0 is probably is not that much light. But the other thing is like, aquascapers like to grow it epiphytically. They, by gluing it to rocks and stuff, that's kind of hard mode. Like, I would plant it in the substrate. It does better that way. So Barbara says, I miss my tiger lotus, which I know is not a real lotus, correct? It's a nymphea. What's the best height tank to keep one in? And how long do they usually live? Mine lasted about 3 years. Well, I had one in a 90 and it completely took over this tank. Completely took it over. Every week I was ripping it back. Granted, I inject CO2, so that makes a difference. But what that plant always wants to do is to turn into a 10-foot water lily with pads that are like this big around and that spread across a 10-foot pond. So it's kind of, in my opinion, like a short-term aquarium plant.
It stayed subdued until I started injecting CO2, and then I
Yeah.
got rid of it because it just, like you
Yeah.
said, those pads are just like, I will blanket the earth and block out the
Yeah.
sun. It became like the evil villain of the tank.
Yeah, and then the other thing is too, even in a low tech tank, once it starts sending pads to the surface, it's game over because it will only send pads to the surface. So you need to keep on
Hmm.
top of trimming it, trimming it, trimming it. And by trimming, I mean just ripping the leaves off at the base, like
Right.
ripping them.
That's the other thing. If the pads
Yeah,
that they don't send to the surface look great and all, but they don't live as long either. Like
no,
they start
because that's what
deteriorating
it
a lot
wants to
faster.
do is it wants to send those pads to the surface where they have infinite light and infinite CO2. So the plant can get really big and it can flower and it has really pretty flowers. It's a tropical water lily. You can grow it outside. Like Stephen, you could put one in your 10-foot pond. No, well, I don't know if it would get enough. Maybe it would get enough light. It's worth trying if you had one. Why not? You
Mhm.
have the space. But you know, I haven't noticed an upper limit to how long they live. Mine was going strong, and I think 2 years when I got rid of it. But I think they live long enough that like I would get sick of them before it was time for them to die. I,
Yeah.
I would say that like all of the nymphaeas I kept like outside and stuff, those are incredibly long lived. Some of the cultivars that we're gardening with right now, so like Helvula is one I keep right now. It's a very tiny little miniature one. So Monet kept that one in his garden, and they're clones of the ones that Monet kept. So they're just rhizome divisions of that plant. So they're very long lived perennials. If you have one and you keep dividing it, it can last your entire lifetime. So they're very, very hardy.
Do we
Oh, so it's the
figure?
umbrella palm. I
Yeah.
would say,
She sent me. She said she
yes,
sent
show me
a
a
pic.
picture of it because there are lots of
I
things called umbrella palms
I
that.
can't find where she sent it though. It
Oh,
might have, if I scroll down enough, I'm sure that had been worked would have been worked out. But when I get there, someone
yeah,
just tell
because
me
there are
where it
lots
is.
of lots of
Jody,
things.
I do not want mystery snails. My snail raising is strictly like for food purposes right now, like for the
Sometimes
puppets.
Steven gets hungry and he needs a snack.
Hey, they're
So
very crunchy, satisfying crunch.
good calcium for your bones.
And if you want to chip a tooth, bite into a Malaysian trumpet snail.
Yeah, those rock hard. So, and I don't want snails either, Jody, especially mystery snails because I have not kept them, but don't they poop like crazy?
They are shit
Like,
factories like plecos. They're
yeah, I don't
strictly
need that in my
pets.
life.
Yeah, and I just don't have much of an affinity for pet snails. They need to
Yeah,
have a purpose, and they're not supposed to have a
yeah.
purpose. They're not supposed to be algae eaters and like old detritus poop eaters. Clethons, what's the word being said? Fuzzy
Oh,
KR. It's
Keystone snails. So that's not spelled with an E, it's spelled with an I. They're horned neorites, and they are the best algae eaters. They are so good at eating green spot algae. I love them. They also don't leave little like sesame seeds all over your tank unless they mix up regular neorites with
which
horned
they do
neorites,
depending on the source. Yeah.
depending on your source. Yeah. But they're the best algae eaters and they don't reproduce in fresh water. I've never seen it to my knowledge, so they're a little
Jenna answered
expensive.
too.
Yeah, they're a little expensive, but they do live a long time, like I don't know, couple years at least. And if you need to put a lot of them in to see a difference, but they do make a difference. So I'm a
Mhm.
fan of them. I need to find another source of them. Maybe next time Dan gets some in, I'll buy them because I do really like them.
When does everyone refill their CO2 canister? Do you take it in when it hits the red? I try to, because yes, it does affect the pressure. Or wait till it's at the end as they charge for 5 pounds regardless.
I just
Whenever,
fill it when it's empty because I don't notice it until it's empty ever.
well, there's
But I
that.
keep a
Yeah.
backup. I keep a backup. So I have a backup cylinder, and I will fill that one ahead of time. So I'm never filling the one that's run out. I'm always swapping those. Life is easier when you have a backup, and I know it's a lot of money to have that, but it does make my life easier because my place is only open Monday through Friday, and Jake always changes my
Same.
CO2. So this
I don't have
way,
a Jink though. I have a Jenna, but
I mean, they're pretty useful. So yeah, so I'll go and fill this on my own during the week, and then he'll change it for me.
but
So
ideally, you want CO2 to always be as consistent as possible. Whenever it hits the red, that means it's lost a lot of pressure because it's not a linear needle like it. Whenever the pressure goes down, like whenever it hits the red, that means like there's been a significant drop in pressure.
I mean, that's
So,
probably ideal, but I can tell you that there are 0 times I have changed out a bottle that wasn't dead empty. Not once. I have not done it once because the cabinet is closed. I don't see it. I
yeah.
just notice it when like there's no bubbles coming out. And I'm like, oh, right.
But yeah, ideally, when it's
No.
in the red, if you have a backup, that's when you want to swap to the backup or you want to take it in. But the same, like I see the red line and then my brain goes, okay, it's time to replace that canister. But do I do it within like a few days? Usually I don't. But that's just kind of, and sometimes I, most of the time, actually, I don't notice it until it's like been out for God
Yeah, I
knows
mean,
how long.
some of yours are out, so you see them. But if you have them in a cabinet, you don't really notice them. So
All of mine are out because if they are out of sight, they don't exist, and
yeah,
I would never.
but
never
see,
notice them.
I have misting, so I have a visual cue. So that's how I know when it's out.
Yep. Even then, my brain wouldn't notice the lack of misting for a while. Like,
Sometimes my brain doesn't, but you know what? I can't have it out because I will trip over it. Because
I get that.
I am not coordinated. And back when I had dog, bless her dearly departed heart, she was also uncoordinated. She would have knocked it over too. I mean, she was blind at the end. So for safety, I had to have them stored away. So, yeah.
All right, we're not caught up. We're still staying a Rico behind. But let's see. So Mike wants to know, do you adjust the recommended dose for your squirt ferts based on CO2 versus no CO2 injection lighting intensity? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a recommended starting point. I mean, even for my outdoor plants, there's just recommended starting points. Like
I don't adjust on lighting intensity though, because I don't need to. I adjust
I don't
CO2
either.
versus no CO2 injection.
Because I mean, everything is as intense as I can make it, but I have so many immersed plants that
but yeah, even my low light
they need
tanks,
a lot of fertilizer too.
every tank is CO2 limited. Like I just dose because it doesn't. There's no issue with dosing the way
I
I
would
dose.
say that tanks are less sensitive to there's the threshold for problems is a lot higher than you might think. Like, if you're close to being right, it's probably good enough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like sit down and like calculate the exact like micromoles of each nutrient that is in there every single day. There are aquarists who do that. For instance, Greg Zydak. I mean, he has this enormous spreadsheet of like the exact concentration of every macro, but I don't do that because, these are biological systems and the amount of plant growth I have is a variable on a given day or a given season. It just doesn't really matter that much.
I don't think we talked about last week is how much or little the whole nutrient antagonistic relationship matters in aquatics.
What do you mean by that?
So in addition to that deficiency chart that floats around the internet, there's another chart called Mulder's chart. You ever heard of that one?
No.
Mulder's chart
Probably
is
pseudoscience though, right?
it's the first of all, it's like the most unreadable, complicated thing I've ever seen. But essentially, it spawned this belief that too much potassium inhibits calcium and inhibits magnesium, and like I can definitively prove that to be not the case simply because I have now these low KH tanks that I dose with potassium bicarbonate, and I have to dose GH into my tanks anyway,
Right, because
and
you
that
don't
has
have any.
potassium.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
yeah.
dosing 100 ppm of potassium a week, way more than any system would ever need.
Yeah.
And I'm
It's
dosing a
growing
normal amount
just
of
fine.
yeah.
There's so much pseudoscience with aquarium plant fertilizing. And I got to say, there are two people who really got it right. And that's Tom Barr with his estimative index and Corey at Aquarium Co-op with Easy Green. Because fertilizing doesn't need to be that hard. And what estimative index is like every day you give everything an index or an excess of nutrients and then 50% water change a week and done. There's no thinking, there's no measuring, there's no.
And thank God for that, because my hobby is not fertilizer mixing.
Yeah, and Easy
adjusting.
Green, you just squirt some in. It's even easier, and you don't. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it just works. So,
yeah,
I dose every day that I feed, and I feed probably 6 days a week because I probably forget like 1 day a week. So. Yeah, I just feed the fish, feed the plants, same time, and done. But I inject CO2. I have decently high lights. I have immersed plants. I need a lot. Now, if you're a person who does not inject CO2, has kind of middling KH, I always say like start with once a week.
Well, I think that's
time you do a water
absolutely the right amount, because if you so I think I showed last week Tom Barr showing this low tech tank where he basically was like, this tank got 1/20th of the EI dose per week,
Here you
because
go.
he basically CO2, he said CO2 injection increases growth rate by 20, factor of 20.
Sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And if you do the math, just Easy Green by itself, some of the nutrients are more than 1/20th. Some of them are slightly less, but like, for example, phosphate is less than 1/20th, but you get phosphate from your food and you get it mostly
and
like
it's
also from your water source. So
it's close.
So every like one full dose of Easy Green per week in a low tech tank that is CO2 limited,
pretty good.
It's pretty much exactly what you should be doing.
I mean,
if you want to feel better about yourself, do another dose in the week. Not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, I mean, following the package directions is usually the way to go for fertilizing, like outdoors. So I fertilize a lot of plants outdoors, and I don't get creative with it. Like what I do is I use like Miracle Grow, or it doesn't even matter. Usually I use Miracle Grow because it's cheap. I mix it up in a sprayer, and I just dose it by the package directions once a week. I don't say like, okay, I need to add like exactly like 50 mils of this to this pot. No, I have it hooked up to a sprayer that it sprays it at a certain concentration that's about right. And it just works, and I just spray it until the plant is watered. I don't think about it that hard, and plants do fine because they're getting something consistently that they need.
So this was this palm holly scent. So we've got this.
Well, if you think it's so that probably needs to be closer to the surface. So like pond plants that are immersed plants, usually they don't like to be more than like an inch underwater, their crown. So go to the other picture again, please. That plant looks pretty unhappy. And it looks better that way. It looks kind of like an umbrella. Yeah. From the top, that looks like a cyperus, like the cyperus I told you about, the papyrus. Okay. That only wants to be like the crown just wet. If it's like 6 or 12 or 24 inches deep, it's going to be very unhappy. It wants to be about an inch deep, and then most of it growing out, maybe 2 or 3 inches deep, but like most of it growing up out of it. Otherwise, it will rot and be very unhappy. So.
Okay. Mike wants to know, asking you specifically, do you think more hobbyists run into more algae issues due to the increased par of cheaper lights compared to the past?
Yeah, especially with small tanks, because so I have a dirt cheap Nicrew that I bought just for a quarantine tank. And I bought this after being away from the hobby for a few years because, I just didn't have tanks for a few years. I couldn't believe how bright that thing was. Wow. And it's a dirt cheap little fixture. So yeah, maybe I mean, it's
Yep.
a balance, right, between light and CO2. It's a balance.
But but
If
whenever
you're
you're
not
not,
injecting CO2, and this
then
was
all
just
you really
more
have is
important.
light to adjust, basically.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that you can adjust your light, ideally you'll have a fixture you can turn down. So like Fluval 3.0s, you can turn them down. You can also you can reduce the photo period, but nobody wants their lights on for 2 hours a day. At a certain point, that's not effective and it's not desirable. But you can
No,
raise it up too.
I go
That's
by
really
intensity,
helpful.
and I want my photo period to be as long as I want it to be, and then
Yeah, I like my photo period to be 10 hours because I like to look at my fish. And in nature, the plants we grow are experiencing a photo period if they're from the tropics of about like 12 hours year round. Now if they're from like North America, you know, they do all their growing in the summer and the photo period will be even longer than that. I mean, think about like how long the summers are in Indiana. You know, the days can get pretty long.
mm,
So 10, they're all longer than 10 hours because when we have 10-hour days, it's the dead of winter, you know.
yeah.
So I like to, you know, those cheaper lights, you can raise them up. That's a way you can do it. You can put them on legs, or you could hang them from something like with zip ties, or and then don't trim the zip ties, and then put pictures of it on fish cord and tag Mike.
I got a lot of zip tying to do to get these ponds back in shape.
There you go. There
So
you go.
Jose Davila said, when I gave up on a tank and started hardly using the lights on it, the Anubias and Crips really took
Yeah.
off.
It's a
So like
balance. It's a
this,
balance. And Anubias does not like a ton of light. It likes to be a little more shaded.
right? Because I mean, the light is going to drive
Yeah.
its demand, and the CO, and it's not going to be able to. The CO2 will not be able to meet the demand. So this, like, I think I was talking about last week. This happened by accident because these crappy fluval light strips on these flexes, it got wet and the LEDs started burning out. And like even now, one of them kind of flickers and it looks stupid every now and then. But like I just from the light being forced to be dimmer on this tank, everything started doing so much better. It kind of clicked with me. Like I knew the relationship, but I don't have a par meter, and it doesn't occur to me
Yeah.
like exactly how freaking bright some of these lights are, even when
It is.
you
I
don't
mean, because
realize.
like, so I have cheap lights up for growing seedlings. You need pretty intense lights for growing seedlings.
Mhm.
And they're getting the job done. But I compared that to like a shitty night crew. Oh my god, that night crew is so bright. It's so bright.
Them white LEDs are very cheap to make.
They really, really are. They're really cheap. I mean, compared to when I started, so I was using like there were power compacts or T5s. It was so expensive. So expensive. Like a fixture for a 29-gallon, which wasn't even good. It was like $250. And now you can get like, I don't know, what, a $20 night crew, and it's crazy bright. Scarlet Temple, in my experience, needs CO2 and it melts when it doesn't get CO2.
Or
And
low pH.
I love I love Alternanthera renickii, and it's a great plant. It's one of the only stems I like. I haven't had it in a little while, but maybe I'll get some again because I really like it.
Did you
But
know that Blixa japonica is actually a stem?
yes, yes, it's a stem because like the little the nodes of it, the way it
It
grows.
just doesn't grow like a stem.
It's
So it's
it's a
like,
super short stem. Like the internodal length is really, really short. So most plants, you know, they have like bunch of leaves, then a node, bunch of leaves, then a node. Well, this like it's like bunch of leaves, super short node, bunch of leaves, super short node, and so that's why you don't really see the nodes, but it is a
mhm.
stem. So, but Scarlet Temple never grows fast, even with CO2. It's a slower growing stem, but maybe if you have like KH1, you can get there, but it does so good with CO2. And it's one of the first plants to just melt back and look like crap when my CO2 is out. And it starts like getting like transparenty, translucenty leaves
What the
when
other
it
thing that I learned that like the reason that I struggle with Scarlet Temple is because I am a serial plant rearranger. I know
Oh
not to
yeah,
do
and I
that
don't
with
do that.
crypts, I know not to do that with crypts and
Yeah.
certain things like that, but I didn't realize the stems are usually like, no, it's fine, move me here, I'm good. Alternanthera is not like that. It does not like to be uprooted.
Oh, and I never move. Yeah, I never move it. And it also really, it does look better if you pinch it. So, and by pinch, I mean like pinch the top of it. And what that does is makes it bushier because
Yeah.
it removes apical dominance from the plant.
It's also pretty it doesn't
I
mind
remove
that
it.
as much as other stems do. Like you don't have to keep discarding the bottoms as much as you do with other
No, because it
stems.
grows so slowly. That's why
Mhm.
it has all, I mean, it has like none of the downsides of most stems. Like it stays well behaved. The AR mini is really well behaved. Doesn't grow super fast.
Yeah.
But like maybe those features are things that would make you like it, especially if you didn't have CO2. Because, you know, so are there any water lilies that will grow in an indoor pond? As long as you give them enough light, any of them. But you need to bear in mind the size of them. How big is your indoor pond? Some of them want to get pretty big and they'll start like overlapping the, if your indoor pond is only like 20 inches wide, like it's kind of hard to find something that small. Outdoors, I know some really, really tiny ones. What is the name of the little lily? That one's Helvula. I love that one. That's the tiny baby. And I don't know if you can grow that one inside. I don't know if it needs a winter rest because some plants, that are adapted to colder places need a winter rest, but maybe not because people grow them in the tropics. So maybe you could grow Helvula indoors, and it would do okay. It needs a good amount of light. And the thing is you underestimate how bright the sun is compared to even shitty Nicru lights or like even like expensive Chihiro's lights. The sun is so much brighter, so much brighter. So it might be difficult to get it enough light to really bloom ideally, but you could always try it. And like, especially if you just care about the pads, which are pretty. So Helvula is kind of hard to find. And I only divide that one every 3 years because it just doesn't need it. So I don't have that one to give away.
So Austin is asking what my percentage on color is for the Chihiros Pro.
Because you and I use different settings. Because I don't like very reddish purpley light because it's personal taste.
Right. That's the thing to keep in mind. Yeah. My settings are not because I believe that plants grow better with this. The plants are going to grow great if you have any kind of reasonable balance of the colors.
Yeah.
I have, and also, and keep in mind that this is, I don't know, like a 14-inch tall tank, maybe a little taller than that. It's a 16-gallon tank. It's small. So I have my red at 60, I got my green at 55, and I got my blue at 65.
And I use the shrimp setting, the shrimp preset, because I like the way that one looks because it makes the rainbows look a little bit more blue-green. And I like that. And I don't like a lot of red purpley light, but it's personal taste. And you should pick what you like.
I'm not going to open my Week Aqua app to tell you the settings because that app is just a freaking nightmare. And I don't want it to do anything.
We went through all those app settings. They were crazy looking. But the Chihiro's presets, like, I guess a good place to start is to look at the presets and see which ones you like. And then maybe you adjust them a little from there.
You can dial down the intensity.
Yeah.
If I did 100 on this small tank, it'd be pretty difficult to balance.
Yeah, whereas like I have to go 100 on this, and it's still honestly could use a little bit more because it's a deeper tank and there's a lid. So, but on this one, I have them turned down because it needs it.
As it is, I'm getting a little bit more green dust algae than I would care to deal with. Like I'm having to scrape the glass every few days. So
yeah, I've just scraped the glass every week, which kind of sucks. But that's kind of a seasonal thing for me that pops up in the winter. So yeah, just play with the settings and see what you like. I like the shrimp setting. I've used the boost setting. I kind of like that one. Sometimes that one is very blue and green and it's not red at all.
To make your blue boost that's labeled blue.
Yeah. And it does look good, but then like your red plants won't look that good. So, you just got to play with them. The fish setting is super red. I don't like it. But if you have red fish, I just don't really like the color red. It's a color I don't have affinity for. So,
All
how
right.
cold can the tiger lotus go? I could put them into the pond. We get down to about 45 degrees usually. It's too cold. You can grow tiger lotus outside, but you need to wait. So I'm zone 6, and I wouldn't put that one out until probably mid-May, maybe. Like the water, it can't get too cold at night. The temperature of the water needs to be pretty warm, and then it will die back once it gets cold. So you would have to take it down well before it got cold at night, or you just let it die back and whatever. You had fun while it lasted. Or you could take a propagation indoors and grow it. But it's not a year-round in our climate plant. Even in Stephen's climate, I don't think you can grow that one year-round. I think the only places in the United States you can grow that one year-round would be like Puerto Rico and Hawaii.
I did
Maybe
try to
Miami.
put tiger
Maybe
lotus in the
Miami.
pond a year or two ago, and I mean, it could have gotten shaded out by the giant freaking lily that I had in there, but
On Visa, yeah.
yeah, it definitely didn't make it through the winter.
Oh no, I think that one maybe Miami, but definitely Puerto Rico and Hawaii if you want that one year round. It's just too cold. And the thing is like for tropical water lilies, I treat them as annuals. They're very difficult to store and to get to bloom again without going dormant. So, and most pond growers in northern climates treat all tropicals as annuals. And I mean, yeah, like I spent $20 or $30 on something, but spoiler alert, I blow
Yeah.
all kinds of money on annuals. It's what I do. So it's really not that big deal for me to plant an annual and just enjoy it one year. So
Holly, thank you for the
oh,
4.99
thank
super
you,
chat
Holly.
saying, love all this plant porn. Turns me on for sure. Me too.
I
Really turned
love
on.
it. That's good. That's a good way to think of it. Plant porn. That's good. What I'm really excited about right now, and I can't show you because it's in my office, are all my seedlings. I'm having so much fun this year growing seedlings. And like I've grown seeds in the past that I've started. But this year, like I really went all in because I'm like, I do get a lot of satisfaction out of growing things from seed and planting out and seeing the whole life cycle. And it does save a lot of money. So I really like, and they're in my office, so I can really care for them and they don't like slip my mind. If they were in any other part of the house, like maybe because you can't miss watering them or they die because they're babies. So
Daniel asked if I've set up my dad's pond yet. I have. I had to find a plug for it, and I finally got the plug. I mean, I wouldn't say it's set up yet, but like it's ready now. Like I've got
yeah,
the plug, and I am putting dirt in some pots, and I'm going
exciting.
to set up a bog filter. So like things are in motion now.
That's
With
gonna
it.
be awesome. And I can't wait when I come visit you again to see it because
Yeah.
it's gonna be really cool. And I think it would be nice for you to have an area of your yard to enjoy outdoors. I mean, obviously not during August, right? Okay, August in
Yeah.
Louisiana sucks. Like, it's just like I don't like to go outside in January, you know? But like, it'd be nice for you to have something pleasant in March to enjoy or like in November to enjoy. So, but Daniel is you're setting up some ponds, right? What are you planning for this year, Daniel? What are you gonna set up? So he showed his wife my channel, which I have very little content, but I have some.
But you got pond porn in there.
I do. And apparently Daniel's wife is now on board. Mrs. Velez is on board with ponds. So I've recruited Mrs. Velez to the pond
Nice.
side. I'm pretty excited about that. So I want to see what he ends up doing with his yard this year. Pretty excited about that.
And also he won the RO unit that we gave away on Fishfam link. So do some
Yeah.
fancy stuff with
Yeah,
that.
Daniel's had a streak of good luck. But you know what? He's a pretty good guy. So I'm cool with that.
So Coro wants to know what plants can we send back to
Oh.
repay me for Jody and Jeff K and everyone's generosity.
Oh, that's so nice. That's nice of you.
I'm out of room. Yeah, I don't know. Like
Maybe you could pass
this
them
whole
along to
plant,
someone who needs them. That
the
would
whole
be
member plant thing started because of my hoarder tendencies, and it just I hate throwing out plants when they're perfectly good plants. Like
I have no problem with that.
got a bunch of weeds growing, and I'm like, man, these are beautiful, and into the frickin' trash or the compost, wherever they go. Yeah, just so right now I'm kind of on a like let's look at some frustrating plants kick. So that's why I got like Salzmani purple, and then got that brownie ghost 2011, and just sacrificing whatever to the boost gods to get that one to grow. It's doing fine right now though.
I have no trouble throwing out aquarium plants. They're weeds. I don't care. I compost them. Where I can't throw things out are like the water lilies I divide, or the lotuses. Well, the lotuses, I have to be at peace with throwing them out because like when you divide lotus, like one plant would be enough for like 50 people to have a start of it. But the truth is, this is like, I don't know 50 people who can grow a lotus because it's a little fussy. Water lilies are easier. So I can't throw a water lily out because they're like $40 a piece. And I know that like someone could give that a home and like really enjoy it. So
maybe a spider plant, Coro.
Oh, that's a really fun one. You can grow right out of your tank. They root in water real easy. Yeah, that'd be fun. But don't send me a spider plant. I don't really actually like them.
If you put neorites in CO2, would you need to provide a lot of calcium and such to avoid shell erosion over a long period? It's just the acidity that's dissolving the shell. There's nothing you can really do.
There's no way around that because I have quite a bit of, I have KH6 water, so I have more calcium than Stephen does just out of the tap. But it doesn't matter because it's so acidic and the KH is so low that it drives the equilibrium toward dissolving the calcium as opposed to accumulating the calcium. And that's part of the problem with like reef destruction is the water, as CO2 levels rise in the atmosphere, the water is becoming more acidic and the coral can't build new skeletons because it can't precipitate the calcium because it's too high pH.
I thought we were catching up, but I realized no, we're like 20 something.
No, we're just doing what we can. Like we're humans. We're not that good.
Yeah. So Scotty warm. So Silhouette that's like 80 something degrees. So plants above 80.
They're just none of them are very happy. Some will do a little better than others. I mean, people always cite like Echinodorus, so swords, but some Echinodorus get really, really big, which I'm assuming your shrimp tank is not 75 gallons because that would be absurd.
Yeah, and you want stuff because like you've got less CO2, less oxygen in warm tanks, so it's going to be even more CO2 limited.
Yeah, and even if you inject CO2, which I doubt you're going to do in this tank, because why would you? I would just experiment with what you have. Try crypts, but they're going to melt back at first, but they might do okay. I've noticed my crypts still look pretty ratty in the summer because my house can get like up to 78 degrees and they just start looking kind of ratty and crappy. So, who's a good person to ask is Paul Sotero and Didi because they keep discus. And so they have like 80-degree tanks. They're good people to ask what they have the most success with.
It sounds very technical, Gene says, to have CO2. Is there a plug and play CO2 that would be nice? Not in the sense of like you can just set it and not monitor. Like when you're first setting up CO2, there's some research and there's a lot of monitoring and observation over time to look at. And you have to understand that a CO2 overdose will kill your fish. And so it's not something that you can just plug in and walk away.
The easiest to make it though, like for a system to buy all the parts of, is to like send an email to like GLA Orlando.
Yeah, if someone
guy
will
who
like
lives there,
help you get
and
started with it.
he will curate. He'll tell you exactly what to buy. You tell him what you need, what your tank is, how you don't have any of the parts, and like he'll give you a list of everything to buy. And it's a good quality regulator. It's really, really good. And a better quality regulator, it does take some fiddling every couple months. When I switch out the regulator, I do need to fuss with it about 10 minutes. But then I forget about it for months, and
Yeah,
everything
but
is
you
fine.
gotta
Nothing
you gotta know
changes.
what
So
your
yeah,
fish can tolerate. You already
right,
know kind
right.
of roughly what.
I know
Yeah.
that already though, but it does make your life easier to get a better regulator. And if you go to GLA, I know that like you can get really good customer service from them, and because I did this too, and they just gave me a list of everything to buy. So
The shelf life of Easy Green,
oh my god,
no
it's
idea.
super
I've never
long. I
even
mean, the
come.
thing is, yeah, does it say a shelf life? The thing is, this is like the macros are immortal. The micros might not be. So, I mean, they're chelated, which does help them. So, what a chelating agent does, so for cations like magnesium and iron and calcium, they're charged molecules, and those charged molecules can they can pull electrons from other things, or that, yeah. How you keep them sequestered so they don't precipitate out is you use a chelating agent. So chelating is from the Greek chelos, which means cage, and it surrounds it in a cage so it stays soluble. So it does help the shelf life. It's not forever. I don't know. I mean, I would like to hear from Corey what he says the shelf life is, because I'm sure he has some testing data on that. I would say, let's just say 1 year to be safe, but I don't know. If you keep it in hotter temperatures, it's going to degrade faster.
I've never
Yeah,
kept the bottle long enough to really like test that out.
yeah. Let's just say 1 year to be safe, but I don't know. You should ask in Corey's live stream. That would be, because I would want to know that too. Dry ferts, though, are immortal as long as you keep
They're
them
dry.
dry.
Yeah.
I mean, I have used some of those compounds like from the 60s in the lab, and they're fine. Do I use any plants as indicator plants? Why, yes, I do, Mike. And if so, what are my favorites? So back when I used to grow Monte Carlo, that's a bellwether plant, because if you don't give it enough CO2, the leaves are very tiny. And if you give it enough, it gets like, I mean, they're still small leaves, right? It's dwarf baby tears, but they look much bigger and much healthier. Blixa melts back once the CO2 runs out. Any Blixa, in my experience, does. Alternanthera looks like crap if the CO2 runs out. Java fern, if you let it go long enough, will start looking like crap. So yeah, there's definitely some plants to look at.
I mean, I have all of those. Not that I keep them around to be indicator plants, but it just
No, they're
turns
just
out that they
there.
are. Yeah, they are the
Yeah.
indicator
Oh,
plants.
the other one, this Haidai pearl sore that's in the front, it doesn't look as pretty when it doesn't have CO2. So like right now, you can see it has a nice red color. It gets really dull looking. It's really dull. And that's
Okay.
probably because so the anthocyanins, one of the functions of them in nature is kind of like as a sunscreen to like shade out light. Well, if you're not injecting CO2, you need to have way, way more chlorophyll and
Yeah.
rubisco and all the green stuff. So it's like, we better quit making sunscreen and start like really, really making more rubisco and making more chlorophyll so we can like cope with this lack of CO2. So more chloroplasts.
So what is the functionality that's going on whenever a plant turns red under nitrate limitation in the water column?
I don't exactly know. I mean, but anthocyanin has nitrogen in it. Or I mean
Mm.
no, the opposite. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what that
Like,
is.
it's probably some kind of stress response in the
Yeah,
same
it's a
way that
stress
like too much
response.
light. Yeah.
Yeah, and not every plant does that.
No, it's mostly rotalas,
Yeah,
and I think the ammonia gracilis also seems to be very
yeah.
nitrate dependent, like low nitrate in the water column. It tends to grow better. It's
Yeah,
weird.
and the thing is, this is almost all plant physiology studies are from terrestrial plants because why wouldn't they be? You know, the vast majority of plants are terrestrial,
Yeah,
and
because
all
we're
the
all we're
ones,
doing is just like stressing and torturing plants,
yeah,
basically,
and pretty
seeing
much
what they
all the
can
ones we
handle.
eat are terrestrial. So, like the
Mm.
most important plants are terrestrial, and I'm not aware of nitrogen limiting making plants redder in terrestrial plants. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. You should ask Tom.
Zen said, I mean, if you hold your breath and reduce your intake of important gases, you will also turn red and then blue.
And then purple, and then well, and the good news is like eventually you will pass out and you'll start breathing again. So
So, Mandarin Gobi says, Stephen, does Amazon frog bed grow fast and does block out for the plants in the aquarium, and what plants can grow in under frog bit? So, yeah, I mean, frog bit does block out a lot of light, and so it's just how intense can you make that light underneath the frog bit? There's a lot of plant, like we were showing, Anubias, Crips, Bulbitis, Boost, that kind of stuff can grow under almost near darkness,
yeah, but there is a
just very
point where you're
slowly.
shading your lights almost completely,
Yeah, like
and
you can't
and
let
you're
it get like
yeah.
so many layers thick that you're just not, it's
Yeah,
not
you're kind
getting
of shooting yourself out, and you could think, well, oh, I'll just turn up my light. Well, then at a certain point, your light is so intense, you're frying your frog bit.
true.
So
But there's a
I
lot of
think
stuff you
that
can grow in a nice balance of floaters and light intensity. It's
I
just
think
about the
the
balance.
I think the best thing you can do though is to sequester them. I've seen people use like a ring of airline tubing or something to like keep them on one half the tank or in just a little area. So you're not shading your entire tank or just removing some of them every week. But I wouldn't let them like completely cover the top. And I would just get rid of them altogether because I don't like floaters. Like you can't see them. You can just see like little roots dangling down. You can't see them.
Alex
Oh
is
no, the
crazy. Aquatic
Netley
Adventure says if y'all think the Weak Aqua app is bad, don't try the Netley one. Oh my god.
I can't remember what is Netley a light? I've heard of it,
It's
but I
one of the
can't remember
narrow
what it is.
spectrum bandwidth lights.
Okay.
It's on that list with
So it's
ADA,
like a
Chihiros,
Chihiro's
and yeah.
competitor.
Yeah, well, it's like I think they're even cheaper than Weak Aquas, so it's like a Weak
But at
Aqua
worst,
competitor.
I can barely
I
handle
don't know much
the
about them.
Chihiro's light. It took me, yeah, I don't want anything worse. I can't, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
At a
Uh,
certain point, like I would rather have no app. Like maybe just a little dial on the side with, I mean, yeah,
I like the ramp up. Now, if you've ever used the digital timer dimmer on a night crew,
I
you'll
haven't.
want the app.
Yeah.
You'll be wishing for an app.
I
That
mean,
thing is a lot of button pressing, and if you even like hesitate to press a button and make a change, it like resets. It's like, I guess you're done. Doesn't
yeah.
give you
I
a lot
mean,
of
I
time.
like having an app in the end. The
Yeah.
Chihiro's app could be better. The Fluval app, I think, is great. I think it's really easy to use. But I don't want to have anything worse than the Chihiro's app. And I
Well, it's
really
out
don't
there.
want that. I don't want that Netley app. I don't want it.
Socorro asked, does it indicate anything specific when stem plants are throwing aerial roots? Are adventitious or whatever they're called, right?
I mean, they use it for. I've noticed that a lot of stem plants, it's just something they do. So I remember this skate from Green Aqua. It was really pretty. They They wanted it to look like a big Japanese maple tree in the fall, you know, with the red leaves. And they built this like big tree in it. It was so pretty. And they used like epiphytically grown Alternanthera renickii mini as the red leaves. And it looked so cool. It looked like a tree in autumn. And every single day they went in and trimmed the roots on it.
Oh no.
And eventually, like, we can't keep doing this. Is it too hard? And they replaced it with boost because, you know, it was just too much. And their standards so high for what aquascapes look like that those adventitious roots offended their sensibilities. So
they are kind of an eyesore when they get out of hand, especially on Alternanthera. It's like it's almost like you just have to accept it. That's what that plant looks
it's just what they do. And there's no physiological changes that you can do to change that, because the plant it's trying to adapt to better conditions. So what a lot of stem plants want to do is to break off, float away, and hopefully like root into like a swampier part where they can like grow out of the water, because growing under the water sucks. So if they have already a little piece of adventitious root on that node that broke off, then they're ready to root, right, when they get to a new place. So it's just something that they do, like especially Rotalas do it.
One of the myths that goes around on the Planet Tank Facebook groups is that if there's aerial roots, it means that there's not enough nutrition at the substrate. But I have not found that to be the case
I don't believe that at all, because I've never. It's just what they do. I mean, you can make it look better, like for your Rotalas, by trimming them every single week and just replanting the tops. That's a lot.
Rotala is kind of annoying whenever it wants to lay down and root.
Yeah, it's just what it does. And the other thing is to spread. One thing it wants to do is it wants to just lay over
and then sprout at the nodes.
Yeah, and so then it'll have those roots there. So it's not that the plant is growing unhealthy. It's just that you're trying to do something that it's not evolved to do.
Let's see. I'm looking for more questions. Let's see. Zen, if you were a glutton for punishment and did have a tiger lotus and a 40 breeder, how tall would you let the tallest leaves get before cutting them back?
I would just every single week, especially with CO2, pull any kind of tall leaves, like half. And by kind of tall, I mean like, I don't know, 2/3 of the way up, maybe.
Don't let it ever get that sweet taste of atmospheric CO2.
You got to do it every single
game
week.
Over.
Every single water change. And this was even in a tall tank. Every single water change, I had to pull some out. I don't think that a tiger lotus is ever appropriate for a 40 breeder.
I had one in a 40 for a while, but it did get out of hand.
So big. Even in a 90, it gets out of hand.
Is this the live stream where we air our grievances? If so, I don't like wet sleeves. Neither do I.
Yeah, you know what? Air your grievances. I approve. I always wear a tank top when I change water. But last night, I was already in my pajamas when I did water changes. And they weren't the longest pajama sleeves in the world, because as a tall woman, pajamas are only sized for women who are 5'2". And so my pajamas are too short in the legs and the arms. So the sleeves went to about here, but my sleeves got wet and I did not like that. So I should have put a tank top on.
You know what else really grinds my gears is when you got big fat arms and tiny tanks and you want to move a plant with your hands and you overflow the damn tank just by sticking your hand in there.
I could see that grinding one's gears.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an issue for me because I do not move plants outside of water changes ever. I don't touch these tanks until water change day. And I always wait until I drain the water, I don't know, a couple inches before I stick my hands in there, because why not? So
Cora says, we need to find frustrating plants to mail to Stephen so he can feel guilty for killing them. Gotcha.
Send him your Pogostemon stellatus octopus.
You know, eventually I will be desensitized to killing difficult plants. Now that I sort of understand why I'm killing plants, I just like, well, you know what? I can't can't give this plant the love that it needs, obviously. So
I was listening to like a podcast on gardening or something, and they said like if you're a good gardener, you've killed a lot of plants. A lot of plants. And it's true. I've killed so many. And I'm not even I'm a decent gardener. I'm not like a master gardener or anything, but I've killed a lot of plants and I'll kill a lot more because like how do you know what you can't grow sometimes until you try? I mean, you can research it, yeah, but sometimes you don't know until you try.
Yeah. Photo period, light intensity are key to colorful plant. Yeah,
I mean,
terrestrial plants, when CO2 is not your
yeah.
limiter, then yeah, just
Yeah, for
light.
sure. For sure. I mean, you have to grow somewhere, something where it's adapted to grow. I mean, if you have a full sun plant and you try to grow it like in Stephen's backyard, it's just not going to be happy. Though, to be fair, things that are adapted to full sun in my climate kind of want part sun in yours because your sun is so intense compared to mine. You live closer to the equator. It's so hot where you live that things can get really fried.
Yeah. The app is like 90% Chinese and crashes all the time.
No.
Yeah.
No.
See, now I can. So yeah, the thing about the Weak Aqua is it doesn't crash. It's just kind of stupid the way it's got to be set up.
Yeah.
But it works. I just don't like to mess with it much. Now, an app that crashes on me, I would. That's phone throwing territory for me.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Also, like, I kind of need it to be in English. I need
yeah.
Like you should be able to choose a language because I know the Chihiro's app comes in many languages, which is great. It's an international product.
Although Google Lens is very helpful, you can sort of translate in real time as you're
but
navigating.
I don't want to deal with that. Like I shouldn't have to deal with that for now. I'm
not
willing.
It's not ideal. Not ideal.
Not willing to. I will buy another product.
What is my KH? I've got some rare single nanthus. My KH can be whatever it needs to be.
He has RO water. I don't. I have KH6 out of the tap. I don't use RO water. I don't plan to anytime soon. I really don't have a good place for it.
Most of my tanks are just tap water at 7 degrees, and I have a few that I'm pushing down to like 2. I can push it down to 1 very easily if I need to. I have 4 tanks like that. One of them is a 40. That's my biggest one. That if I got Singonanthus, that's probably where I would put it, is in the 40.
Because like, aren't you were, I know when I was there last, you were in the process of reducing your 40 breeders KH, right?
I hadn't started it, but that was kind of in the plan. I just needed to make sure that that the RO system, like I wanted to make sure the RO system had a proper heater in there, and because it's being stored outdoors, so during the winter, I didn't want to do 40-degree water changes.
Yeah. My KH is 6 out of the tap pretty consistently. My GH is 6. It's pretty medium water. But I don't know if there's Singonanthus that would do.
They weren't even asking me, actually. I just was. I just realized asking Jody, and Jody's.
Oh, okay. Well, Jody's KH is sky high. Sky high. She's RO water too, so I have no desire to grow Singonanthus though. It's kind of not my jam.
I don't know if it is or not. I'm gonna have to try it. If you got some for sale, I might buy some off of you. Let's see. Does Amazon sword, grand Java moss in low light conditions, does it grow fast when you put more fertilizer or lighting? Now Amazon sword, it's a little bit light. It's more light demanding than like a crypt or an Anubias or
I would agree with that.
like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, but it's going to be CO2 limited.
Yeah, I mean everything in aquariums is limited by CO2 in the end, because we can now buy our way out of the light limitation problems pretty easily. So unless you have a deep tank, like it costs a little more to light a deep tank because the
Yeah,
pond is
and
significant.
when you're limited by CO2, more lighting makes things worse. More fertilizer at best doesn't really help
It
if
usually
you
does
already have enough.
nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't bother with root tabs. I mean, you can. I mean, in a new tank, I usually will put some in. I don't know, maybe once a year, I'll give it a root tab. I just do water column fertilization for my plants because it's easy and cheap. For root tabs, isn't Corey making a root tab that is more like Seachem's root tabs? Isn't that in the
Eventually,
works? Because,
I think
like,
it's delayed.
I only like Seachem's root tabs because they don't float up. They're the best.
Yep, I like to sink them at the like just kind of grid them out with a full tank,
Just
and
pop them
then I
in. You
just
can use
pop them in one at a
tweezers,
time.
or if you can't reach part of your tank, you can use your fingers. Doesn't matter. Much easier.
I have a fingers first policy, and then I use tweezers if I can't use
Yeah.
fingers.
Yeah, I can reach pretty much all of my tank too. So
When in doubt, run 0 kh. I know, right, Luke?
I mean, there you go, Luke. I mean, that's Luke's policy. I just don't know where in my house I would put RO. I mean, I could maybe put it in the basement and run it upstairs, but like the basement is so musty and gross that I kind of don't want to add any more moisture to it. I don't
I
know.
mean,
And I don't want to put it upstairs because I have hardwood floors and I don't have a closet that I want to devote to it. And I don't know. It would require some infrastructure and thought, and it would require Jake doing it because I'm not going to do it. So,
yeah,
not a priority.
maybe not that house. Maybe your next house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because I would buy something with like the thought of being able to keep a reef tank and like a big tank. Like I would consolidate these into one big tank. 1 kh out of the tap must be nice. It's just like all the people in Seattle. Oh, perfect.
Well, you know what? I think it's important to recognize how lucky you are because there
Right.
are people who live in in the PNW area and have never really struggled with plants all
Yeah, they
that
don't know
much,
what
and
it's
they
like
don't
to live
know.
in Iowa.
And so they get very nutrient focused because they think that's the only thing that matters.
Oh, and they get like low and slow American barbecue CO2. Well, it only applies when you don't need much CO2 to get where you're going. If you live in Iowa and you have KH22 out of the tap, like I did when I lived there, I think Jody has KH18,
15.
like 15. That's
But I mean, when you get that high,
high. I don't know what Mike has, but it's pretty high. I mean, they live in a different part of Iowa than I live. They live in Western Iowa, but still, that's really, really high.
yeah.
I think Dee Dee had like, 16 out of the tap in South Carolina. Hers was really high. So, that's why Dee Dee went RO water. Life is better. Life is better.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's
ours is
hard.
low enough that we can grow most things.
Yeah. And I can grow the plants I like. I don't tend to like a lot of those fussy stems anyways. So I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at. And if you don't have to use RO water, it is a lot less work because I can just use my tap water. So much easier.
If you have high KH, the solution is obviously to fix your water so nutrients are the new bottleneck. But even still, even if you are injecting CO2, like what's the highest you can go? If you're Tom Barr, you can go to like 75, like Madman. But most people are kind of comfortable with that 30 to 40 ppm. And
Yeah.
there's a certain point where like nutrients are still, I mean,
Nutrients are cheap and easy to
they're
add.
important. Yeah, exactly. Like the thing is like a nutrient deficiency is the easiest variable to rule out when you're
And
diagnosing
it's the
plant
cheapest
problems.
and easiest to fix and the one with the least detrimental effects to fish. Like, could I crank my CO2 up to 80 ppm? Sure, but I think all my rainbows would die.
What are
So
you running right now, Luke? Do you know your ppm of CO2? Because I know he does like a 1.5 pH drop,
yeah,
and I'm kind of in that range too
I
in some
can't do
tanks.
that. My rainbows freak out. They don't like it.
Yeah.
So, but there's limits that, and then light, I could get more power over this, I guess, but I already have 2 Chihiros fixtures on here, and honestly, it could be higher. I don't really want to spend that much more money. So, and
Probably
it's so
around.
good, it's covered.
Oh my
60 to 70.
god, 60 to 70. Look, yeah, I'm just a scaredy cat, I guess.
I can't do that. My fish freak out. Like I go as high as they can and back off a bit because I don't want them to be stressed. So that's a limiting factor. But if you have no fish in there or any other inhabitants, you can crank it as high as you can go. So
Yeah,
but
but I mean, when you are doing a system like Luke's, nutrients, then they're kind of like you can have deficiency issues for
you can,
sure.
but nutrients are cheap and easy to fix
Right.
and to dose to excess. That's what EI dosing is. It's like an excess of dosing every week and then a 50% water change to reset. That's the beauty of EI.
Yeah. And
No, and
I was reading
dry ferts are
someone's
cheap. Dry ferts are dirt cheap.
I was reading someone's journal on Scape Crunch, and their fertilization is front loading every week. It was either Joe
Yeah,
Harvey
so
or Greg Zidek,
yeah,
and
Greg
they only
Zidek
dose.
does that. He doesn't front load his micros because they are they're more labile, which is the opposite of stabile. I mean, they break up, they fall apart during the week.
So
So
you can't just have them
you
sit
can't do
around.
that.
Oh,
Macros, you could load all of them at
yeah.
once for the week. Your fish are fine. And then your plants just take up what they need. It's fine during the week. So
Yeah,
you
I
can
think
do that.
micros kind of become more of an art when you're doing high CO2 injection.
Maybe.
A lot of
Yeah.
people, even the people who are kind of aware of like what the bottlenecks and stuff are in those advanced plant forums, they still are a little fussy about micros.
Yeah,
Like
they
there's a lot of
are. I mean,
discussion about micros.
yeah, there is, but some of it is voodoo, I think. And some of it is
Yeah.
marketing. Like I only use APT fertilizer. It's so much better. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But ferts are the cheapest of the levers to pull, but the least effective compared to CO2 and light.
Exactly. Get good, Cora says. Why handicap yourself with high KH?
Good scrub. My KH isn't that high. It's 6. That's not bad. I mean, I used to live in Iowa and then in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't remember what the KH was there, but it was pretty close to what it was in Iowa. So
I'll take some whip water.
whip water.
I will open it in a room where my aquariums can't see the water.
I want to see if it's even clear out of the tap. I somehow doubt it. It's like got a yellowish tint. Oh.
Let's see. Yeah. Yep. I think Branton's got that KH15. Like Branton grows. I think he said before, like if a plant is not going to thrive in his tank, he doesn't waste any time on it. It's
That's
live or
how I
die.
feel.
And so
Yeah, that's how
everything
I feel
that's in
too.
his tank is thriving and growing.
Yep, I agree with that. I grow things that I kind of know will grow. I mean, once in a while I try something, but I mean, if I know it's gonna fail, I don't bother. Because that just creates more decay in your tank, which is just more opportunities for algae.
Well, okay, actually, Stephen, can you blast enough CO2 into an African cichlid tank to grow effectively? Man, imagine how fast that aragonite sand would dissolve with CO2 injection.
Here's the thing. You can grow enough you can grow plants in African cichlid tanks. When I was in Iowa, I had a friend who grew Hygrophila sunset, and it looked gorgeous. And this was with shitty lights. Like these were just like, I don't know, like the fluorescent, like what are those T10 lights? You know, the big ones they used to have in office buildings, and no CO2 and like Iowa water, hard as a rock. But that plant is so easy to grow, and it would grow so fast that it didn't matter that the Mbuna cichlids would pick at it and fuss with it. And it looked so good. It was really fun to watch because the fish were so pretty. So you can. but you got to pick the right plants. And then, but the thing is, so I mean, I had African
Hornwort too, but hornwort, I bet they would just shred it anyway. I mean, it would grow fast, but they would probably still
they
shred it
shred it
and make
because
it
that
gross.
plant is like a little dainty. Like it
Yeah.
can't take like not manhandling, I guess fish handling, cichlid handling. It can't really take that. But yeah, that high growth sunset, it looked so good. But so I had African cichlid hard water and I blasted it with CO2. But I'm here to tell you that I could not grow plants like this. I just couldn't. Part of it is I didn't have as good light as I do now. But a lot of it is like, water was just so hard that you just could not really get enough CO2 in the water to help plants. So I had to be really picky about what things I grew. Like I had trouble growing rotallas. I mean, I could grow them, but they didn't look that good. So, you know, things like Vals would do okay, Anubias would do well, Crypts would do well. It's just life with that hard of water. And if I had water that hard again with my current income, I would get RO. I would find a way. Or I would not do this hobby because it's not fun.
So Coro says, outside of fish that need it for osmotic pressure, I don't think fish need KH for anything other than
I mean, it
like
does
pH
provide
stability.
some buffering, but there are other things that buffer the water too.
The water changes are a good buffer too.
Well, I mean, there's natural phosphates buffering the water. I mean, there's all kinds of things buffering water that just are there. But,
well, unless you do use RO, then you kind of starting from a clean slate. But also there, you know, there's fish food.
But fish in their bloodstream have a KH buffering system, just like we do. We have a buffering system with our blood that's involved with respiration, because as we, you know, breathe in, or our blood is more basic, and as we before we exhale, our blood is more acidic. It has more dissolved CO2 in it, and that we expel that out. So there's the CO2 buffering system is really important for that. And fish have that in their blood too. So they do use it for that. So they need some carbonate. They can also make their own carbonate. Like they get from the CO2 that they get from just make through respiration. So,
but as far as like wanting to eliminate KH, I guess it depends on your goals. Like if you're doing what Luke is doing, then having high KH is a hindrance. And
and fish are fine as long as you do your water changes. And you know, there's other natural buffers in the water too. KH is actually not a great buffer. Like when I was in the lab, I'm not making KH based buffers. Like there's just better things out there. And I don't know why those aren't more popular in the aquarium hobby. Like apparently like cichlid keepers use phosphate buffered systems. Those are so much more effective buffers.
Because they buffer they don't necessarily like make your pH skyrocket, because they buffer it like
they're just
like
better.
5 to 7 or something
better
like that.
Buffers. So like the common, like there's this just general like lab recipe called PBS. It's phosphate buffered saline. Like it's used for everything. I wouldn't use the salt part of it because it's not great for plants, but that's a great buffer. Like phosphate buffers are they're much better. They're just better. So TAE, that's tris based buffers. So I can't remember what tris stands for because it's one of those scientific chemical names that's like 1,000 words long, and it just gets shortened to tris. But tris based buffers are great. That's what I use to keep DNA and RNA stored in. It's a very effective buffer. I don't know why tris buffers are not popular in the aquarium buffer hobby. Like if people are really, really afraid of pH drift, why wouldn't they use tris buffer or PBS? I don't know.
But
so
like the tank behind me is still running at 7 degrees KH. And in terms of the way it's set up right now, if I switch to RO water, it wouldn't give me much of a marked difference, because if I wanted to grow fussier plants in that, my limitation in this tank right now is purely light.
Yeah, and I'm limited in this one too. Because it's a deep tank. And deep tanks, they're just a lot to get lit. They're a lot.
Getting lit.
Just getting lit.
So, well, we got 5 minutes until the other streams. Whoever's scheduled.
So who's all going tonight?
Bob and Chelsea and Scotty maybe and Hagen Hill. I don't know if any of these are scheduled, but that's typically who's streaming at
Maybe
6.
a mod will know, so you can choose. And then Grant and Shelby
At 8 o'clock
later
Central.
tonight. And I saw that Shelby just set up a macroalgae tank for Ope Ula.
She did, yeah.
She is so talented. It looked so cool. I want to see how that looks when it grows in.
Good point, Jenna. Use the last 5 minutes to talk about the now scheduled Foxland auction.
Oh, yes. That's
I did
wonderful.
Schedule at 5 p.m. Central, April 12th. That's a Saturday. It's already scheduled, so you can go hit the reminder on it now. There's over 40 something lots across a bunch of other people.
Some really good stuff too.
So it's scheduled, and later on, possibly today, if I get all the information I need, I have a list of like how to bid, instructions and policies, and also a list of all the things that will be available for sale in the order in which they will be up for sale for auction.
So can people still donate lots, or are donations closed?
I will let Foxy decide that. How much of a pain in the ass she is willing to tolerate. I know I know Elfish. I'm just going to call him out because he's not listening. David Elfish Tanks. He was a late donor.
Well,
just found out today. So
I too enjoy procrastination. It's all good, but that's going to take a long time to go through 40 lots like that.
3-minute timer on each, plus a lot of distractions and meandering and conversation.
Yeah, you're going to need to have like a good beverage with you, but not too good of a beverage. I'm
going to eat beforehand.
You might need a bathroom break. I mean, it's going to be a long night, but it's a good cause. We're helping our friends get married, and everyone is invited to their wedding at the Clash. I hope to see everybody there. I'll be there. Stephen will be. Are you wearing a tux for this? Because he's going to be in the wedding party. Have they said what you're going to wear? Like, are you?
Oh, we got like for the actual wedding. Yeah, we got fitted for the suit. It's a suit and tie with a vest and shoes of our choice.
That's good. That's good. Jake and I were talking about like, what are we going to wear to this wedding? Like, are people dressing up? I have no idea. And we're like, we'll just err on the side of kind of dressing up, but like not wear a ball gown or a tux. That seems
drunk auctioneer and depends. See, Nancy knows good entertainment.
There you go. I'm so far behind in chat. It's like I've given up.
Oh, we got caught up with questions, unless I missed some, which is very possible.
That's good because I gave up
few minutes ago.
Oh my God. I'm so far from the bottom. It's like, wow. Cause there's Cora Works talking about his pickle brine buttermilk chicken.
Yeah, okay. I think I did miss that one.
I can give you tips on this. Make sure you have enough salt in it. It has to be salted enough or it won't work as a brine. But not so much salt that it's too salty, but like it needs to taste pretty salty. It does work good though. Buttermilk brine chicken, it works like magic. And I don't know, I'm so far from the bottom, I don't know, but I gave some cooking tips, so there you go.
Okay.
Alec has a question for me. Make some dahlia hybrids and grow the seedlings out. Now that's rewarding. I would love to do that, Alec. I love dahlias. They have the coolest genetics because I think they are hexaploid, which means they have 6 copies of chromosomes. So they have 6 copies of every gene minimum. So you have so much potential for genetic variation for them. And they are really, really pretty. But my yard is the size of a postage stamp. I have room for like 16 dahlia plants period.
Mhm.
So I don't want to waste space growing out seedlings, which may not look that good, when I can just grow known varieties. So, and dahlia breeders, they typically, for every one that they select, will plant like 200 seedlings and select one. So, but it would be rewarding. And if I had a bigger yard, I would enjoy doing that. It's also a lot of labor though, because where I live, I have to dig tubers because I can't leave them in the ground. It's too cold here. And at a certain point, like, it's a lot to dig. I mean, I can dig myself. They're pretty shallow, but like it's a lot. So
Yeah.
I have a job. Then there's something about I could write a song out of something. I'm so far behind.
Yeah, I had to just get to like the question, the plant related questions, because
I
it was
feel
a
like I
lot.
was a bad chatter. I just gave up.
Yeah.
How
All
many
right.
people are here? Like, it feels like a lot.
And we were in the 70s. So
We're you know what? We're popular. We're popular
super,
people.
very, very super awesome, famous. Yeah.
We're
All right.
famous.
Now
On your fame.
we're encroaching into other people's stream time. So we're gonna say bye and
That's right. And
see
thank
y'all in
you,
chats.
everyone. Thank you for your support and your questions and your super chat and your donated memberships and your mods. We love you. Lurkers, lurk. We love having new people. Replay crew, thank you for listening. And we will see you all next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.